you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that needs these guys, Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him.
I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too.
That you're a cheater, and I believe that you needs these guys. Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, cause that everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out. Right, they're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him compete. Dana White just destroyed the entire concept of the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul boxing fight, and honestly it's tough to argue with the man. Jake Paul was never in it for the blood, sweat and bruises of a real boxing match. His game plan from day one was about raking in fame and piles of cash, and let's be real here, not from knocking someone out but from milking content gold on YouTube. And that thing that you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the star down the guy that Stan Tyson videos, wild promos and dramatic face-off clips weren't just side projects, they were the main attraction. The man knows how to ride the hype train straight into the bank, and it's true they say once a YouTuber always a YouTuber. Dana White of course didn't just tear into Jake for being a fame chaser, he brought up so many alleged shady dealings that it felt like a courtroom drama, and by the end even I had more reasons to dislike Jake Paul than I thought possible. Stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the star down the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager, and that guy used to be an accountant for me, and let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a back. So in Dana White's signature no nonsense gives zero crap style, he's obliterating Jake Paul, calling him out as one of the biggest frauds to ever step into the world of fight sports. Dana doesn't just throw around insults for fun though. He's accusing Jake of juicing up on steroids and dismissing his entire boxing career as a parade of gimmicky matchups. I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul. The first have no, I have love for Jake too. I don't. And before anyone tries to brush off Dana's words, let's remember this is the guy who turned the UFC from a backyard brawl into a global multi-billion-dollar empire. His knowledge of the fight game isn't up for debate. When Dana talks, even the loudest skeptics have to sit down and pay attention because he knows his stuff. You think that you can do it better than we do? We're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out, go start your own business. It's easy to do. Go get the warlock on it. The warlock could get it started for you. What you and the warlock should be focused on is your business. But Dana's fury isn't just some personal beef with Jake. It's deeper, like you've disgraced the entire sport. Built level of rage. He sees Jake manipulating boxing, cheapening the whole thing into a spectacle for clicks and cash, and to twist the knife even further, Dana sets his sights on Jake's manager, sarcastically calling him the warlock. Apparently this guy used to be an accountant for the UFC but couldn't hack it now. In Dana's words, he's downgraded to being Jake Paul's errand boy. Dana paints the guy as a cautionary tale, a former number cruncher now running around trying to stay relevant by clinging to Jake's social media circus. The whole thing is dripping with mockery, and Dana makes sure to highlight just how far this warlock has fallen from any semblance of respectability. He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same, and if you think Dana's trash talk ends there, buckle up. He ups the ante in a way that only a true fight promoter could. A challenge to Jake Paul that goes way beyond words. Dana demands a steroid testing showdown, claiming Jake's biceps aren't exactly courtesy of good old-fashioned hard work and protein shakes. He wants random drug tests for Jake, and to prove he's got nothing to hide himself, Dana even proposes a wild deal. He'll undergo random cocaine testing for 10 years, 10 whole years of drug testing, all to prove he's clean. I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake. This whole steroid versus cocaine drama has become a spectacle bigger than some actual fight. It's a media frenzy with headlines splashed everywhere and social media users losing their collective minds. Suddenly the Tyson vs Jake Paul matchup isn't just about who's getting caught in the ring, it's now dripping in controversy with accusations flying and egos clashing like heavyweights. Dana's challenge isn't just spicy trash talk, it's a battle cry demanding Jake Paul prove he's not all smock and mirrors. The fight hype has evolved from punch predictions to wild steroid accusations, and it's making this showdown way more explosive. Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not, so I told you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater and I believe that you use steroids, so I want to randomly steroid test you. And our pretty Jake Paul has never been one to back down from a heated debate, especially when it involves stirring up drama, and this whole fighter pace crusade, oh he's leaning in hard, portraying himself as the noble warrior standing up for underpaid MMA app, the guy who made his name pulling pranks and stirring chaos. on YouTube is now acting like he's the Robin Hood of the fight world. He loves to rattle off numbers that definitely grab your attention. $600,000, that's what he claims top tier UFC heavyweights make on average, and then he hits you with the comparison. $30 million, the jaw-dropping payday for heavyweight boxing champs. According to Jake, it's a massive injustice, and naturally he positions himself as the only hero brave enough to call it out. But let's not kid ourselves, Dana White isn't buying a word of it, and he's coming in hot with sarcasm so sharp it might as well have blades. Dana openly scoffs at Jake Paul's supposed grasp of fighter pay and the business behind it. It's almost comical. You think he's not paying BS fairly, it's all greed, and it's all going to fill Dana White's pockets. Dana White blasted Jake Paul for accusing him of using cocaine. So Whitehead, I mean Dana, the mastermind who transformed the UFC into a global powerhouse, listening to a YouTuber lecture him about finances. Yeah. No, Dana lays it out, telling Jake that if he really thinks he's so clever he should stop whining and start his own MMA organization. He even throws down a sarcastic challenge, saying it's easy to do, with that eye roll tone that implies the complete opposite. It's like Dana daring Jake to put his millions where his mouth is and learn just how brutal running a fight promotion can be. He didn't even know half the guys, __, names on the card, and the list goes on and on with that guy Khabib. He retired. Do you think there's ever a chance that Khabib would come back and fight? If there a number that you cannot say, Khabib, we got 20 million, we got million. I threw the numbers at him. Trust me, this isn't just playground banter though, it's a collision of two massively different worlds. On one side you have Dana White, who has built the UFC into the gold standard of mixed martial arts, working with absolute legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who left the sport undefeated and untouchable. On the other side you've got Jake Paul, whose entire combat sports career is a series of viral marketing stunts against retired, often smaller MMA stars. Jake wants to paint Dana as this greedy tycoon making bank off the sacrifices of underpaid athletes, but Dana sees right through the ACT. He's calling Jake out as a self-serving fraud who only pretends to care about fighter welfare when it suits his brand. He's making money. If you can, you making real money, D? Or you making, I don't know that I don't know, I don't know what he's really making. And let's talk about Jake's so-called crusade for fighter pay. It gets even funnier when you consider his own fight lineup. He's made millions boxing against guys like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, fighters who were retired out of their prime and much smaller than Jake. Meanwhile, Jake keeps bragging about his earnings as if that makes him a champion of justice. Dana finds it laughable, and honestly it does come off as a bit hypocritical. If Jake truly wanted to make a difference, he'd probably be doing more than just talking, and was also considered a boxer and he lost. So if you can keep fighting, __, 50-something-year-olds, you don't think Tyson has a chance making a living? That I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody. Now with the added spectacle of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, things get even messy. Mike Tyson is a living legend, sure, but he's also pushing 60. The dude isn't the unstoppable force he once was, the guy who could knock a man senseless in seconds. Yet here he is about to face off against Jake, a guy 3 decades younger. The age gap is almost insulting, and critics like Bernard Hopkins aren't shy about calling it out. Hopkins, who knows a thing or two about longevity in boxing, says Jake and Tyson shouldn't even be in the same conversation. Guys that box for living, guys that are your age. How about that? He says he wants to fight Canelo. I just say, would he hear you? Then why is he not fighting Canelo? I don't think Canelo wants to waste his time. Yeah, but let's face it, as much as people criticize, they can't resist the spectacle. It's like watching a train wreck. You can't look away from the idea of a 58-year-old Mike Tyson landing one of his legendary punches on Jake Paul's face. That's the stuff of viral dreams. Former UFC fighter Brendan Shaw breaks down the possibilities if Jake K.